Hi, this is Cinder with Care Therapy Incorporated, nonprofit, and we are so excited about our first podcast for Savvy Caregivers. And the Savvy Caregiver Network is amazing. It's an amazing tool that we're using to reach out to caregivers in the community to uplift them, to strengthen them, and to provide resources for them. And we'll be on each week with our podcast. It'll be entertaining, it'll be funny, it will be heartfelt, and it will be informative. And actually, today we have Dr. Kendra Andras of Health Nut Systems, who will be with us today to talk about nutrition, which is the basis of everything. This is why this is the first podcast. And she's going to talk to us about nutrition, about hydration in the lives of seniors and caregivers, and how we can employ certain practices to keep ourselves strong as we move forward in this caregiving journey. So once again, we'll be on every Monday. We'll start airing our podcast at 6 o'clock, and we are looking forward to engaging with you guys. Go to www.caretherapy.online with your questions, your concerns, and just to connect with our community. Once again, we hope you enjoy this show. Reach out to us. I'm Cinder, your host, and we'll look forward to being with you every Monday. Hello, Lady Kendra.
Hello, how are you?
I call you Lady Kendra. Everyone else calls you Dr. Kendra. Thank you so much for being here on our first podcast, the Savvy Caregivers Podcast. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Honor. Thank you for the well wishes. Also, thank you and your husband for the awesome work that you're doing in our community. All of the events and fairs and the speaking engagements, and I use you every chance I get, but thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. The goal, of course, for Savvy Caregivers, which is we're brand new. It's a component of our Care Therapy Incorporated nonprofit, and it's an outreach for caregivers. Because as you know, caregivers need all the support that they can get. They're the most amazing people. We can't make it without them, but we need to keep them healthy, Kendra. We really do. And we find that 33% of caregivers are passing away before their loved ones that they're taking care of. So we're trying to find ways to get the message to them, get the information and the resources that they need to sustain their lives, because indeed our seniors don't have a quality of life without someone to take care of them, and that's the caregivers.
Yes, that's so true. I found out that most caregivers are passing away before the person that they're actually taking care of, which is a huge problem.
It's a huge problem because they're not caring for themselves. They're giving all of their energy and all of their, vitality, everything they have, resources to their loved one, and they're missing their own doctor's appointments. They're not eating properly, not taking time to exercise. So then there's a decline in their health. So tell me, we want to start off by hearing a little bit from you about what you do and what, made you desire to the have this occupation and health that you have.
Sure. My name is Dr. Kendra Andras the first, and I am a licensed and certified herbalist and nutritionist and a naturopathic doctor in training. So I gear what I do more towards natural, organic, plant-based herbal medication. So we make medicine from herbs. And my background is that I've studied under some of the greatest people in the world. Sharon Murphy, who studied under Rosemary Glasstar, who is a master herbalist, and Dr. Dion Pittman out of Chicago, Illinois. I was honored to study under him. He's a naturopathic doctor. I still talk to him today. And Brother Yimla Kofa, I also studied under him. So yeah, that's basically what we do.
Awesome. And what made you, I've heard you talk before about your caregiving experience with your mom, how your mom don't mind. Will you share that with us briefly?
That was very difficult, and it goes back to what you were saying. Let me piggyback on that. My mother moved to Atlanta after Katrina, and then she moved here. And we knew in our hearts that she was dying. She was considered morbid obese. She was diabetic, and she had an enlarged heart. So that was very difficult. We took care of her. I was actually working on my bachelor's degree at the University of New Orleans, trying to get a degree and take care of my mother. And you can imagine she was very huge. So it took two or three of us to turn her and bathe her because at some point she had gotten bedridden. And I just really got into plant-based medicine, trying to hopefully help her. Of course, when I finished, I was too late. She had already transitioned on, but I asked God, if you give me the knowledge, the wisdom, and the intelligence, I'll help whoever I can until I move on to the next phase of life.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I know that must be an emotional testimony every time you tell it,
Yeah.
but you use it to help others. We
Yes.
use our testimonies to help others. That's the blessing in it all and brings value to, our testimonies. When caregivers are taking care of their loved ones, Kendra, first of all, that's a task in itself. Can you give us
Yes.
some solutions and some strategies that they can take on as it relates to their nutrition that will keep them healthy and how they can change their current, intakes and eating habits and lack of hydration to give them the energy and fortitude that they need to take care of their loved ones?
Of course, yeah. So, it's extremely hot and humid in New Orleans. So, right now, we really need to make sure we're staying hydrated because a lot of chronic diseases or worsen or and a result of dehydration. So, making sure we're getting that water in. I was talking to my sister yesterday, and she was the main caregiver for my mother, and she was telling me, I drink like 3 bottles of water a day. I was like, you're like so under the radar of what you need to drink. We need to do at least 7 to 8 bottles of water per day.
Wow.
And then getting those fruit in, the fruit that are mainly made up of water, like watermelon, or
Mhm.
the vegetables like watercress, pineapples, things like that. Getting in those things, not eating after 7 if we can help it. Because when the sun goes down, Cinder, we should be slowing down.
Yeah.
And if you're not slowing down with the sun, you're going against the actual plan of what the good Lord gave us. So, not eating after 7, and when you're preparing the meals for the person you're caring for your loved one, prepare something for yourself. Start doing meal prep. Get those containers ready and put them in the fridge so that you can hurry up and grab it and go. That way, you're not tempted to eat all of this denatured madness at these fast food restaurants, which really is not fast food. Actually, fast food is getting
Wow.
food from the ground, not necessarily going through a drive-through, getting something in a red container.
Right. Wow, that's awesome. You said something about not eating after 7 o'clock in the evening, which brings the question of intermittent fasting, because we know that as we get older, our metabolism slows down, which, and then if you're a caregiver, you're probably in the house if you're a full-time caregiver, family caregiver.
Yes.
So you may be picking up some pounds here and there. Can you talk a little bit about intermittent fasting and your perception on how that can help us, or if you think it can help us?
Sure. So the first recommendation I would give is to talk to your doctor and get your vitamin D levels checked. Because many of us gain because our vitamin D levels are extremely low or very depleted because we're not getting enough sun and we're inside taking care of the caregivers or we're working under all these artificial lights. So going to your MD or going to your health practitioner, getting those vitamin D levels checked. I'm all for intermittent fasting. I think that fasting has a place with everything. It has to be done in moderation. You don't want to overdo it. However, intermittent fasting, some of the pros of that is that we're getting some of the toxins out of our body. We're allowing the body to do what it needs to do. Another thing for intermittent fasting is that you're allowing your vitamins to kind of flow through your system freely without all of that gook and all of that residue and all of that that's lodged in your intestines. So intermittent fasting can be a great thing, of course. However, like I said before, everything is done in moderation. Don't overdo it. And when it's time to eat, go ahead and eat.
Right.
You don't
Okay.
want to faint or let your sugar drop and, it
And then
becomes
you're
a
eating
problem.
everything you can, anything you can get
Yes.
your hands on. You said something else when you're speaking of the vitamin D. We know that we need the sunshine. We need to get outside to get the vitamin D. Talk a little bit about supplements. Another thing that you do so marvelously is that you're amazing. I don't know if you know you're amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you.
You can assess very well the needs, the vitamins that we're lacking. And predicated on that, you are able to develop, I don't know if this is going to
Individualized plans for it.
individualized
Yes.
plans of care as it relates to nutrition. Talk a little bit about that and how you consult with, the community to get that done.
Yes, so we do blood testing. Well, we would tell you if you're a AB, a O, or a B. And from that, we use the Eat Right for Your Type diet, and that indicates to us the foods and the types of exercise that that individual should be getting. And then once you bring your lab work from your medical doctor, I can read it. So I've been trained to read it, and I can see what you're lacking. And then from there, we can develop an individualized plan to tell you, okay, you need to eat more of this vegetable, you need to eat more of this fruit. And that's what we've been doing a lot in the community. And it's been working for a lot of people very well.
Awesome. What are some of the signs of deficient? How do we know we're deficient?
How do you know if you're deficient?
Hmm?
You may have very brittle nails, your hair may be very dry, you might be very tired. For individuals with Alzheimer's and dementia, they can have a lot of sundown episodes
Yeah.
because they're lacking vitamin D. So
Yeah.
those are some of the signs of vitamin D deficiency. Yes.
And do you feel, speaking of Alzheimer's, we had a wonderful workshop last month.
I heard about it. Congratulations.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Thank you. And we have another one coming up on the 20th, so I hope you can make it. It's going to be even more marvelous. But Veronica Collier, she was talking about sundowning and explaining to these caregivers, our caregivers that were present, what it is and where it comes from. A lot of times caregivers don't understand that at certain times of the day that their loved one may begin to act out or have a certain type of behavior. And, and it's consistent, oh my God, at 5 o'clock every day, mama is just off the chain, because she's going through the stages and processes
Yeah.
of dementia and Alzheimer's. And so nutrition, I should ask you, can nutrition
Oh,
play?
yeah. Yeah. So I actually did a workshop talking about foods that make you mad, literally mad, like very angry, very irritable, very upset, things that we shouldn't eat a lot of, the different types of sugars, and how your mood changes when you eat these foods. So we actually did a little exercise, a study on that, and it was very interesting how your mood would change, your overall affect would change just because you ate certain foods.
Right, right. Awesome. And so do you work with patients with Alzheimer's and dementia patients, or do you recommend that they work with their specialists, relating? So if someone has a diagnosis, is what I'm saying. Okay. Can you develop a plan? Is that something that you do?
Yes, we can definitely develop a plan. It's funny you should ask me that because my mother, what I refer to her as my mother, it's actually my mother-in-law because my biological mother, passed. She was walking one day in all of these acres of land where they live in Mississippi, and she couldn't remember what day it was. And they had to airlift her to the hospital, and we discovered that she had a mini stroke. Well, you wouldn't know it because she's 87. She still plays football. She climbs mountains and everything, but it affected her short-term memory. So I'm actually treating her now with a tincture that is for Alzheimer's and dementia. Now, she hasn't been diagnosed, but I do know that that is the beginning stages of it. And she's doing quite well. She's beginning to remember something. She's beginning to say, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. She still has her moments, but she's doing much better now. So
Awesome.
I'm treating her for Alzheimer's and dementia. Yes.
Awesome. That's amazing. And one of the last questions that let's talk about sleep and rest and how important that is to work with our nutrition to make sure that we have optimum health. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah. So you are training your body to do a routine. Everything needs consistency, Cinder. If you're consistent and you stick to the plan, it's going to work. Case in point, if I go to bed at 8 o'clock sometimes, and then some days I go to bed at 11 o'clock, then my body doesn't really know what it is that I want to do. So being consistent, trying to go to sleep, and it's very hard because we're very busy, trying to go to sleep at the same time every day is so much help for your body and for your nutrition for you to get on track. That's so helpful for you.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Well, we're getting ready to end this short segment because we know that you're busy. You're a multi entrepreneur, and we thank you for your time today. And this is
You're
part one.
welcome.
This is part one because you're going to come back. You'll be back next
Yes.
week with another session. But we just want to thank you. We love you for your contribution to the community. Tell your husband that we love him. And the Savvy Caregivers, thank you. I thank you. And have a great day. Thank you, Kendra.
Okay. Thank you. Congratulations.
Love you. Thank
And
you.
you too.
Uh-huh. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast of the Savvy Caregivers podcast. We're thankful to Dr. Kendra Andras, who shared with us today from her amazing wealth of knowledge about nutrition and hydration and vitamins in the lives of our seniors and caregivers. We know that it is so important that we stay healthy so that we can continue to take care of one another. So again, we ask you to reach out to us, visit with us at www.caretherapy.online. If you have any questions, if you just want to connect, if you need support, please reach out to us. I'm Cinder. You can reach us at 504-782-4629. Again, we want you to have an awesome week and remember that you are greatly loved and appreciated. Savvy Caregivers. Bye bye.